Hello, everyone. Welcome to Learn English podcast.
Daily life in Vietnam. Learn English through story.
Imagine waking up early in the morning in Vietnam when the sun rises slowly over the green rice fields and the streets of the city are already alive with the sounds of motorbikes, bicycles, and the chatter of neighbors. And as a young learner who wants to improve your English, you can use this moment to observe everything around you and turn it into a learning opportunity, because daily life in Vietnam is full of vocabulary, expressions, and situations that can teach you English naturally if you pay attention. And the first thing you might notice is the smell of fresh bread, or banh mi, being sold by street vendors who start their day before sunrise, carrying baskets full of crispy baguettes, fresh herbs, and savory fillings. And you can imagine yourself walking along the narrow streets, greeting the vendor with a smile, maybe saying good morning in English, and listening to the sounds of sizzling oil as they prepare the food. And this is already an English lesson in real life, because you are learning words like bread, vendor, fresh, crispy, herbs, and savory, while watching something ordinary in your city. And as you continue walking, you might pass a small cafe where people sit on tiny plastic chairs, sipping strong Vietnamese coffee or hot tea, chatting quietly with friends, or reading a newspaper. And this scene can teach you phrases like coffee shop, sitting, chatting, newspaper, and relaxing. And you can imagine describing it in English, saying, people are sitting outside the cafe, drinking coffee and reading the newspaper. And every time you describe daily life in English, your vocabulary and sentence skills grow naturally, because you're connecting real-life experiences with the language you're learning. And as the morning continues, the streets get busier, and you see students in uniforms walking to school, carrying backpacks and books, talking with friends, laughing. And this can help you learn words like student, uniform, backpack, book, friend, laughing. And you can practice English by forming sentences. The students are walking to school. They are laughing with their friends. And this simple observation becomes a small but effective English exercise that you do every day without even realizing it. And as the day goes on, you can notice street markets opening with colorful fruits and vegetables, fish and meat laid out neatly, and the sounds of bargaining between sellers and buyers. And you can learn words like market, fruit, vegetable, fish, meat, seller, buyer, bargaining, and phrases like, the seller is selling fresh vegetables. The buyer is asking for a lower price. And by turning each small interaction into English sentences, your listening and speaking skills improve naturally, because you are practicing vocabulary and grammar in real-life contexts, which is much more effective than just memorizing from a textbook. And if you pay attention, you can even learn about Vietnamese culture. For example, how people prepare lunch with steaming bowls of pho, bun cha, or rice dishes. And the smells and colors give you more words. Steam, noodles, soup, grilled pork, rice, herbs. And you can make sentences describing what you see, hear, and smell, which makes your English learning more vivid and interesting. And as the afternoon comes, you might notice office workers walking quickly through the streets, holding briefcases, talking on phones, and entering buildings. And all of this can teach you words like office worker, briefcase, phone, building, entering, and phrases like, the office workers are walking fast. They are talking on their phones. And you can also describe traffic scenes, like motorbikes weaving through streets, buses stopping, and bicycles moving slowly. And every observation can be translated into English sentences, which helps young learners improve their vocabulary, grammar, and speaking fluency. And as the evening comes, the streets start to glow with streetlights, and families sit down to eat dinner, children play in alleys, vendors pack up their food stalls, and this gives you words like family, dinner, children, play, alley, vendor, packing. And you can describe in English, families are eating dinner together. children are playing outside. And as night falls, the city changes its pace. Some streets quiet down while others stay busy with night markets, lights twinkling, music playing, and people walking slowly or riding motorbikes home. And this provides even more vocabulary and opportunities for sentence practice. And while observing all these, you can also imagine telling a story in English about your day, or the day of someone else. Like, in the morning, I walked through the busy streets. I saw students going to school and vendors selling food. In the afternoon, office workers were hurrying to work, and the streets were full of motorbikes. And this method turns your daily life into a living English lesson, because you're describing real-life events with English words and sentences, which is exactly how young learners can improve English effectively by noticing, describing, and telling stories about everyday life. And as you continue this habit every day, adding more details like weather, smells, colors, sounds, people's actions, and even your feelings, you create a natural and enjoyable English learning environment without needing expensive classes. And as you notice the small things, like the way a vendor waves to a customer, or how a child smiles while playing, or the way steam rises from a hot bowl of pho, you can write or say in English, "The vendor is waving to the customer. The child is smiling happily. Steam is rising from the bowl of pho." And these sentences are not only teaching vocabulary, but also helping you form natural English thoughts, which is the key to fluency. And if you continue, you can expand your story, adding interactions, dialogues, and imagination, like imagining what the vendor might say or what the students are talking about. For example, "Hello, how much is the banh mi?" "It is 10,000 dong." And then translating this conversation into English, practicing speaking and listening at the same time. And you can even imagine telling a longer story. "In the morning, I walked through the market. I saw a vendor selling fresh vegetables. I asked him the price. He smiled and said it was cheap today. I bought some vegetables and continued walking." And by doing this every day, your English vocabulary, sentence structure, and storytelling ability grow naturally, because you're connecting the language to real-life experiences. And this method is fun, practical, and perfect for young learners who want to improve English without feeling bored or pressured. And you can continue by adding more details about Vietnamese culture, like festivals, traditions, food, and celebrations, turning your daily life into an endless source of English learning material. And every small observation, whether it's the sound of a motorbike horn, the aroma of street food, the color of the sunset, the chatter of children, or the rhythm of city life, can become a sentence or a story in English, helping you learn naturally, enjoyably, and effectively. And the more you describe, imagine, and tell stories in English about your surroundings, the faster your fluency grows. And in the end, daily life in Vietnam becomes not just ordinary, but a rich classroom where every moment teaches you English in a fun and meaningful way. And as a young learner, if you make it a habit to observe, describe, and narrate every day, your English will improve faster than you ever imagined, because learning becomes part of your life, and life becomes part of your English learning journey.
As the morning in Vietnam slowly transitions into midday, the city streets continue to buzz with life. And this is where young learners can observe and describe everything in English to strengthen their skills. Because every ordinary moment can be transformed into a learning opportunity. And as you walk through the city, you might notice the way motorbike drivers skillfully navigate tight spaces, weaving between cars and bicycles, honking occasionally to signal their presence. And all of this action gives you words and phrases to practice, like motorbike, navigate, tight space, weaving, honking, signal, and presence. And you can describe it in English. Motorbikes are moving fast. They are weaving through the traffic. Drivers are honking to signal other people. And by doing this, you are already turning real-life observation into English sentences, which is exactly how fluency develops. And as you look further, you can see families walking together to local shops, carrying reusable bags filled with groceries, talking and laughing, and this provides even more vocabulary like family, shop, reusable bag, groceries, talking, and laughing. And you can expand your description with sentences like, the family is walking to the shop. They are carrying bags full of groceries. They are talking and laughing together. And this kind of detailed observation not only improves your vocabulary, but also trains you to form longer sentences naturally, which is essential for speaking and storytelling. And as the day grows warmer, street vendors set up small tables with fresh fruits, colorful vegetables, and local snacks. And they often display everything neatly, using baskets, trays, and small plates. And you can use this scene to learn words like vendor, table, fruit, vegetable, snack, display, basket, tray, and plate. And sentences like, the vendor is arranging fruits on the table. Vegetables are neatly displayed in baskets. And you can even practice conversations in English, imagining yourself asking, how much is this mango? It is 15,000 dong. And repeating these sentences aloud improves both your speaking and listening skills, because you are practicing English in a realistic context. And the more detailed your observation, the more English words and expressions you naturally acquire.
Moving further, you might notice students leaving schools carrying heavy backpacks filled with books, notebooks, and lunchboxes, talking excitedly about their classes or plans for the afternoon. And this scene provides multiple learning opportunities, such as words, student, backpack, book, notebook, lunchbox, talking, excitedly, class, plan, and afternoon, and sentences like, students are leaving school. They are carrying heavy backpacks. They are talking about their plans. And you can even expand this into small dialogues, imagining one student asking another, what are you going to do after school? I will go home and do my homework. And practicing these sentences aloud helps you internalize everyday conversational English. And if you continue to observe daily, you will notice the way students interact in groups, how some sit on the sidewalk chatting, some play with small toys or balls, and some eat snacks while discussing lessons. And every single action can be described in English, and these small stories add depth to your vocabulary and understanding of grammar, because you are forming full sentences naturally, rather than memorizing disconnected words. And young learners can also notice cultural aspects, like the uniforms students wear, the school bags decorated with stickers, or the way they greet teachers with respect, using words like uniform, decorated, sticker, teacher, respect, and sentences like, the students are wearing uniforms. Their backpacks are decorated with stickers. They greet their teacher respectfully. And this not only teaches English vocabulary, but also gives context to cultural practices, which makes learning more meaningful. As you continue walking, you might pass local markets, which are vibrant and full of colors, sounds, and smells, and every detail here is an English lesson in itself, because you can describe fresh vegetables stacked in tall piles, fruits arranged by color, fish glistening on ice, and meat neatly trimmed and displayed. And words like stacked, arranged, glistening, trimmed, and displayed are perfect for descriptive English practice. And you can form sentences like, the vegetables are stacked high on the table, the fruits are arranged by color, the fish is glistening on ice. And by doing this repeatedly, your vocabulary becomes richer, your sentences longer, and your English thoughts more detailed. And you can also practice asking questions, like, how much is this pineapple? It costs 20,000 dong, and answering in full sentences, which strengthens both your speaking and listening abilities. And as you watch the sellers interacting with customers, you notice gestures, expressions, and polite phrases like, thank you, please wait, or I will give you a discount. And you can practice these sentences aloud, integrating them naturally into conversations. And young learners will find that this method of learning English through real-life observation, description, and dialogue is more effective and enjoyable than memorizing vocabulary lists from a book, because you are connecting words with meaning, action, and experience. In the afternoon, as the sun rises higher, you might see workers in small shops repairing motorbikes, sweeping the streets, or arranging goods for sale. And these activities provide more opportunities to learn English verbs and expressions, such as repair, sweep, arrange, sell, worker, shop. And you can describe the scene. The worker is repairing a motorbike. Another worker is sweeping the street. Goods are being arranged neatly for sale. And you can also imagine small dialogues like, "Can you fix this bike?" "Yes, it will take 30 minutes. And repeating these sentences aloud strengthens your everyday conversation skills. And as the streets continue to bustle, you may notice delivery people on motorbikes carrying packages, waving to pedestrians, and sometimes stopping to ask directions. And you can describe this. The delivery person is carrying a package. He is waving to people. He stops to ask for directions. And by narrating every small detail in English, young learners gradually train their brains to think in English, connecting words with actions, context, and emotions. And this method makes learning practical, fun, and meaningful. Later in the afternoon, families return home from work or school, and you can notice how they interact in their homes or apartment complexes, where children play in small courtyards, parents prepare meals in kitchens, and neighbors chat and laugh together. And all of these activities provide vocabulary and phrases for English practice, such as family, home, apartment complex, courtyard, play, kitchen, prepare, meal, neighbor, and chat. And you can describe in sentences. The children are playing in the courtyard. The parents are preparing dinner in the kitchen. Neighbors are chatting happily. And this habit of narrating daily life strengthens not only your vocabulary, but also your sentence structure and storytelling skills, because you are connecting ideas, describing sequences, and using adjectives naturally like happy, small, beautiful, colorful, and delicious. And young learners can also imagine extending these stories, adding emotions, dialogues, and imagination, like the children are laughing and running around. The parents smile while cooking. One neighbor tells a funny story and everyone laughs. And this kind of active imagination, combined with observation, turns ordinary life into an endless source of English practice. As evening falls in Vietnam, the city transforms in ways that are both lively and serene. And for young learners, this is another incredible opportunity to describe daily life in English, because the changing light, sounds, and activities all give you new vocabulary and sentences to practice. And as the sun sets, the streets begin to glow with the warm light of street lamps and neon signs, creating a magical atmosphere. And you can describe this scene with words like evening, sunset, street lamp, glow, neon sign, and magical, and sentences such as, the sun is setting over the city. Street lamps glow warmly. Neon signs light up the streets. And the more you describe, the more your English becomes vivid and expressive. And you can imagine walking through a bustling night market where the air is filled with the aroma of grilled meat, fried snacks, and sweet desserts, and the vendors call out to customers in cheerful voices, encouraging them to buy their goods. And this gives you words and expressions like night market, aroma, grilled, fried, dessert, vendor, call out, and encourage. And you can form sentences such as, vendors are calling out to customers. The aroma of grilled meat fills the air. People are walking through the night market. And by narrating this daily activity in English, young learners can practice describing motion, action, and atmosphere, which are essential skills for fluency. Walking further, you might notice children playing small games in the alleys, throwing balls, skipping ropes, and laughing loudly. And this lively scene can teach you verbs and phrases like throwing, skipping, laughing, loudly, and game. And you can say sentences like, the children are playing with a ball. They are skipping rope and laughing loudly. And even expand it with dialogues. Catch the ball. I caught it. And by practicing these small conversations, you strengthen your speaking, listening, and understanding of natural English expressions. And the same goes for observing families walking together.
carrying shopping bags or stopping to buy snacks, because you can describe their actions. The mother is carrying a bag of fruits. The father is buying a snack for his children. And by narrating everything around you, you are turning ordinary observations into meaningful English practice, which is exactly how young learners improve their language skills quickly.
As the evening progresses, you may notice young couples sitting on small plastic chairs along the sidewalk, sipping tea or coffee, talking quietly while watching the people pass by. And this scene gives you vocabulary such as couple, sip, tea, coffee, quietly, watching, and pass by. And sentences like, the couple is sipping tea quietly. They are watching people pass by. And you can imagine small dialogues in English, practicing polite conversation. Do you like the coffee? Yes, it is very sweet, which trains you to use English naturally in daily interactions. And as you continue walking, the streets are filled with motorbikes, carrying people home from work. And sometimes you can see families riding together, parents and children balancing carefully, and this gives you words like balance, carefully, ride, and home. And you can describe it in sentences. The family is riding home on a motorbike. They are balancing carefully as they move through traffic. And observing real-life motion and activity allows you to describe action sequences in English, which is an advanced skill for young learners, because it combines vocabulary, grammar, and imagination. And the more you practice, the more fluent you become. Night markets in Vietnam are another amazing source of English learning because you can see stalls selling clothing, toys, souvenirs, street food, and colorful decorations. And all of these items can be described with adjectives and action verbs, giving you sentences like, the stall is selling colorful toys. People are buying souvenirs and snacks. Decorations are hanging from the top. And if you pay attention, you can also describe interactions between sellers and buyers. The buyer is asking the price. The seller is offering a discount. They are smiling and laughing. And by imagining and narrating these dialogues, your English speaking and comprehension skills improve naturally, because you are not just memorizing vocabulary, but connecting words with context, culture, and real-life communication. And this is especially useful for young learners who want to understand practical English that they can use in daily life. As the night goes deeper, families may gather in their homes to have dinner together, and children might help set the table, while parents cook traditional dishes like pho, bún chả, or rice with vegetables and meat. And all of these actions provide an endless source of vocabulary, such as gather, dinner, set the table, cook, traditional, dish, pho, bún chả, vegetable, meat, and you can describe sentences like, the family is gathering for dinner, the children are setting the table, the parents are cooking traditional dishes. And young learners can even imagine conversations in English during dinner, practicing polite requests, gratitude, and expressions of taste. Can I have more rice? Yes, here you go. This pho is delicious. And by narrating daily meals in English, you strengthen both vocabulary and practical conversational skills. Because food is a universal topic, and it connects naturally with culture, family, and life, making English learning more meaningful. Outside, you may notice street cleaners sweeping the roads, garbage collectors collecting trash, and security guards patrolling the neighborhoods. And all of these people's actions can be described in English to expand your vocabulary. The street cleaner is sweeping the road. The garbage collector is picking up trash. The security guard is patrolling the neighborhood. And you can add more details. The garbage collector wears gloves and carries a bag. The street cleaner uses a broom to clean the street. And by narrating these detailed observations every day, you practice forming descriptive sentences, using verbs, nouns, adjectives, and prepositions all in context, which is far more effective than rote memorization. And young learners will find that this method makes English learning immersive, interactive, and connected to life itself. In many cities and towns, small entertainment areas or parks come alive at night, where children play with friends, teenagers ride bicycles or skateboards, and families walk together enjoying the cool breeze. And all of this activity gives you verbs and vocabulary to practice: ride, skateboard, walk, enjoy, breeze, friend, family, children, teenager. And you can describe sentences like, the children are playing in the park. Teenagers are riding bicycles. Families are walking together, enjoying the cool breeze. And you can also imagine small dialogues like, let's play together. Okay, I will race you. And by practicing these dialogues, you train your brain to form English sentences automatically, connecting words to real-life actions, which is exactly how fluency develops, especially for young learners who want to improve their English quickly and naturally. In conclusion, observing and describing daily life in Vietnam is not just a way to see the beauty, energy, and culture of the country, but it is also one of the most effective methods for improving English, because every street, market, school, park, and home is filled with words, actions, emotions, and experiences that can be transformed into vocabulary, sentences, and conversations. And as a young learner, by turning ordinary moments into English practice, whether it's watching children play, vendors selling food, families preparing meals, students walking to school, or the colorful nightlife, you are creating a natural, immersive, and enjoyable learning environment. And the key is to observe carefully, describe in detail, imagine dialogues, and practice speaking, reading, and writing every day. Because the more you connect English with real-life experiences, the faster your fluency grows. And eventually, storytelling about daily life will become automatic in your mind, making English not just a subject to study, but a language to live, explore, and enjoy. And this method ensures that learning English becomes part of your lifestyle, a fun journey that opens doors to new opportunities, greater confidence, and a deeper understanding of the world around you. Because the language is no longer just words on a page, but a living, breathing way to express yourself, share experiences, and connect with people everywhere. And if you commit to this approach consistently, you will see that every day, every observation, every conversation, and every small moment in Vietnam becomes a stepping stone towards English mastery. And eventually, the skills you build today will guide you towards success, confidence, and the ability to communicate fluently in a global world, turning the simple act of living your daily life into a powerful, transformative, and enjoyable English learning adventure.